Today's November the 17th, and I'm on my way to go bass fishing. The weather has been horrible where I live. For the last 2 weeks it's been in the teens almost every morning. But yesterday it warmed up into the upper 30s. Today it's supposed to get in the upper 40s. So I'm on my way to see if I can catch some bass. I'm excited about this trip because I have a new trailer for my bitsy bug, and I can hardly wait to see if the bass like it as good as I do. So come along with me, and we're going to have fun no matter what. If this don't beat sitting in the house, I don't know what would. You can still see the snow on the bank from the weather that we had last week. I'm going to go up about a half a mile, so I've decided to run the motor instead of paddling all the way up there. This is my green pumpkin, little Ned rig crawfish. I can hardly wait to give this a try. These are difficult to put on because the little crawfish is so soft and that fiber guard is so strong, but I believe I got it. Isn't that great? If that doesn't catch a fish, the fish aren't biting. I'm going to start off with a crankbait on this rod. I'm not expecting crankbaits to work very well, but who knows? Sometimes they do in cold weather. This water is so clear that I can see this crankbait coming in 6 foot deep. This time of the year, you'll have a lot of leaves that are right in the area that you want to fish. And I can fish them with the bitsy bug, but I can't fish them with the crankbait. Like I expected, I got nothing on my crankbait, so I'm going to the bitsy bug. Well, I fished for about a half an hour without a strike, so I'm going to go on up, see if I can find some bigger logs and things to fish. Hopefully they are hiding under the trees. I decided to troll a little bit on the way up. I'm putting my rod tip under the water because of the leaves. I don't know if the camera can pick this up or not, but what I'm showing you now is one of the best places I've ever fished for bass in my life. You have a shallow feeding ground, and there is a ledge that drops off down into 20 feet of water. And this used to be a ditch when the river was here, before the lake was formed. And this runs for probably 200 yards. I have no way of measuring it. But for 40 years, I've been catching fish here. I've never failed to catch fish here. Today, not a strike. The water you're looking at is 10 foot deep. You can see the rocks. This is a gravel bar when the river was here. And this is the ledge that breaks out into the deep water. It's amazing. It's probably 15 feet deep in that deepest part, and I can still see details in the water. One of the best places to fish I know of. Well, I've been fishing for over 2 hours, and I haven't had a single strike. So I thought maybe I should just take a picture of the guy that's not catching any fish. It's hard to make a video if you don't catch any fish. And I'm Fish for Fun. I'm supposed to be catching fish. This water that you're looking at is bass heaven. On the left bank is a huge ditch that runs, I don't know how far it is, 100 yards, 200 yards. deep water with shallow water. Out in front of me is a gravel bar, or was a gravel bar before the lake is formed. It's a feeding ground with crayfish, all types of minnows. And then as you look over to the right, there are trees and logs laying everywhere in this water. This is the best bass fishing water I've ever fished in my life. I can usually catch a minimum of 25 bass in this area. Today I've been fishing for 3 hours without a strike. I thought I had a strike once, but I'm not sure. But anyway, this is the first time I've ever been here without catching a fish. It's got to be at least over 100 feet. People ask me, what kind of line do you use? I use every kind of line. It depends on what I'm doing and what I'm fishing for, what I'm casting. Today, I'm using 1 pound diameter, 8 pound test line on my crankbait. Why am I using it? It's over 100 feet to that bank across the lake, and I can cast my lure very easily the whole distance over there. It's unbelievable how far you can cast with this very small diameter braided line. Notice the leaves. Been fighting those today. But once again, it's a long ways over to that bank on the other side. If I get this line untangled here from the leaf, I'll show you again. I can cast all the way to it, right next to it, and it's well over 100 feet to that bank. And this line, this lure rather, only weighs about 1/16 of an ounce. This is a number 6 flicker shad, which doesn't cast very well, and as you notice, I can throw it all the way to the bank, and it's got to be more than 100 feet over to that bank. The water is very clear, and I don't usually use colored line in real clear water. But notice, again, that you can't see the line here because I have painted it with a magic marker for about 3 feet up. Something else I want to show you. People laugh at me for using 5-foot 6-inch rods. But look at the overhang from these trees. Most of the places I fish have trees like this. Notice how I can throw underneath the limbs over to the cover. Now, like most other people, if I'm fishing for crappie out in open water, I will use rods from 7 foot long to as much as 16 foot. But for the type of fishing I'm doing here, where you have to cast in under those leaves, the only way to fish on rivers is with these shorter rods. because so many of the good places to cast you can't get to with a longer rod. But with this 1 pound diameter line, I can use a short rod and still throw way back under the trees with no problem at all. I've got a little wind problem today coming up now. The weather's getting ready to change. It's supposed to be back in the teens within 2 days. So the weather may be starting to change. It really didn't make any difference. I'm not catching anything anyway. But it does help a little bit with boat control when you don't have the wind. Something else I will show you is sometimes when I get in a place where the limbs are hanging down even lower than these are, with these short rods, I will grab the back of the hook on my lure and use it like a bow and arrow for short casts, places hard to get to, overhanging limbs and trees. You can't beat it. It works every time. Well, I have a trolling motor with me, but part of the fun of taking a kayak is paddling the kayak, and so sometimes I hardly use the trolling motor at all. But I'm 80 years old now, and when I take these trips like I have today, where I go 2.5 miles up the river, I sure feel better when I get home if I have that trolling motor with me. Well, I've cast around the rocks, I've cast around the trees and logs, I've fished the flats, the feeding grounds. I've not had a strike. So I'm going to put my crankbait on and slow troll down the middle of the lake. There have been several times when I've had days similar to this where fishing was very difficult, and I have trolled in the middle of the lake or river and had at least some luck that way. So as soon as I pass this tree in front of me, I think I'm clear of the logs and things, and I'm going to try that. I don't expect it to work, but I'm going to try it. Something I do frequently when I'm trolling without the electronic devices that I normally use is I check the lure in the water and see if it is doing what I want it to do. If it is, I use that speed. If it isn't, I'll change the speed. This looks pretty good. So that's the speed we will use. I have a section here that doesn't appear to have any leaves, so I think I can do this. My lure is hitting the bottom frequently, and that's what I want. I lose some lures that way, but I catch a lot more fish that way too. When you do this type of trolling, you have to know where you are. I know that this stretch of water down here has a gravel bottom. You can see my lure bouncing as the lure hits the gravel. If you try it in a lot of places where there are logs and trees, you're not going to catch very many fish, and you're going to lose a lot of lures. Well, the trolling didn't work either. I didn't think it would. But I've had a good time, and I'm on my way in now. I fished about 5 hours without catching anything, but I had a blast. Some people that aren't fishing don't understand that, but those of us that are do. I hope you've had fun too coming along with me, and next time I'll try hard, and who knows, I might even catch some. Thanks for coming along.